Okay, we have made it to episode 250, season 6, disc 6. We're almost to the end of season 6. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina K-O-S-T-I-N-A. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy smashy stuff going on here. And, I got itch. So, no sci-fi books in this week's box of books. I'm kind of disappointed. They were um books I'd never heard of, but more in the mainstream fiction line of reading. So I didn't save any of them for you. I'm sorry, but I do have. If you stay to the end, we'll do a little nitpicking. I'm very, very sad. I've mentioned this prior that I didn't find this book until I hit the end of season 6. There are 3 books in this series, and it does the whole first 6 seasons. Unfortunately, it doesn't do season 7. If it does season 7, please let me know about it. But I'm very upset because this would have been fun to do all through 6 seasons. But like I said, I didn't discover this book existence until a couple weeks ago. So I've only had it for the last couple of episodes. So if you stay tuned to the end, we'll do a little nitpicking. So here we are on episode 250. I hope you go back and watch Frame of Mind, Suspicious, Rightful Heir, and all the other ones. I've done 150 episodes, all of them, because they started with episode 101. So technically, this is episode 150, kind of, sort of, right? But anyways, we get a voiceover. Oops, wrong one. No special editing here. We get a voiceover from the captain. Captain's log, stardate 46915.2. The Enterprise is orbiting Novella 4, waiting for an opportunity to retrieve scientific data left there by Starfleet researchers when they were forced to evacuate 8 years ago. So apparently Will is playing the trumpet or whatever that is. And let me know if Jonathan Franks can actually play that or if he was just mimicking. I was saying to somebody the other day, I was kind of dating myself of manilly-vanillying it. If you know what that means. Was he manilly-vanillying it? But apparently he's been having trouble with his music and he's been trying to perfect this piece or something. And Diana and Dr. Crusher are talking about it. So Data interrupts his playing and calls him and says, you wanted to see me, Mr. Data? Yes, sir. It appears we will be able to transport to the surface sooner than anticipated. Is the planet's distortion field rephasing sooner than we predicted? No, sir. Using the Potomac transport logs from the original evacuation, Commander LaForge and I were able to modify the transporters so we can beam down through a higher distortion field. The transporters are considerably more efficient than those used on the Potemkin 8 years ago. That's a good thing. I almost didn't make it off the surface. When can we get started? 97 minutes, sir. How long will the transport window be open? 26 minutes. After that, the distortion field will rephrase. That doesn't give us much time to retrieve the database. The planet's proximity to the sun will create 2 additional transport windows in the next 3 days. Let's hope that's enough. It will have to be, sir. The next transport window will not occur for another 8 years, when the planet's orbit will bring it close enough to the sun to dephase the distortion field. Okay, notify the away team that we're going in ahead of schedule. I'll tell the captain. Aye, sir. So they beam down. And Riker says, "This is different than I remember. This place was a mess when we left. Someone was here. A ship would have been caught in the distortion field and crushed," Worf says. "The survivors may have taken refuge here. Commander, someone is approaching, a humanoid, 40 meters due east and closing." They take up a defensive position, and a figure in tattering clothing comes through the door. He looks like Riker's identical twin. "Who are you? Who are you?" Good God. They were cloned. So here's our clone, just in case I don't get a better shot later. We'll have to see what that's all about. So they both identify themselves as Will Riker. Uh, May I ask how you got here, Data says. 8 years ago, I led a team to evacuate the station. What ship were you on? The Potemkin. Why did you not return to the Potemkin with the others? I was the last one out. The distortion field must have interfered with the transport. They lost their signal lock on me. When I tried to contact the ship, I couldn't get through the interference. If you check with Starfleet, I'm sure they'll have recorded that I was lost on that day. That's not what happened. I was the last one out and I made it back to the Potemkin. Don't you believe me? It's not that we don't believe you. It's hard to see how both stories could be true. Would you be willing to have our doctor check you out? Of course. Mr. Worf, take him directly to Sipray and notify Captain One-Sure on board. Let's get to work. So they beam out. So then he's in sick bay. "Looks like you fractured your arm a few years ago. I was doing some repairs under the station when an earthquake hit. I got caught in a rock slide. I had to reset it myself." And then Picard comes in, introduces himself. "I hope you'll understand I need to verify your claim. Yes, sir. Genetically, he's indistinguishable from Commander Riker. Could there have been sort of cloning involved here?" "I don't think so. There's no genetic drift, but it's not conclusive. That's why I compared the brain scans. Brain scan organized patterns are unique as fingerprints. Except for some minor differences, theirs are identical. But brain patterns can't be cloned. No. They're determined by experience, mostly from early childhood. How can two grown men share the same childhood experience? It just doesn't make any sense. I am Will Riker. I don't know who or what made it back to the Potemkin, but it wasn't me. Lieutenant, our chief engineer is checking the transport logs of the Potemkin. Perhaps they will shed some light on the matter. Don't worry, we will get to the bottom of this. And in the meantime, you'll be taken to your quarters. Try and make yourself as comfortable as possible." "I will. The replicators on the station haven't worked for a long time. It's been a while since I had a decent meal." So then they were all in the observation lounge. Geordi is saying, "Apparently there was a massive energy surge in the distortion field around the planet just at the moment you tried to beam out. The transporter chief tried to compensate by initiating a second containment beam. An interesting approach. He must have been planning to reintegrate the two patterns in the transport buffer. Actually, it wasn't really necessary. Commander's Riker pattern maintained his integrity with just the one containment beam. He made it back to the ship just fine." "What happened to the second beam?" "The transporter chief shut it down, but somehow it reflected back to the surface, and another Will Riker materialized there." "How was the second pattern able to maintain integrity?" Riker says. "The containment beam must have had the exact same phase differential as the distortion field." "Which one of them is real?" "That's the thing, both. You both were materialized from a complete pattern. Up until this moment, you were the same person. But of course, as you and Lieutenant Riker have lived different lives for the past 8 years, you are now different people. I suppose it's like meeting someone's twin. No matter how strange it may seem to us, we now have two Will Rikers on board. As Lieutenant Riker will be with us for several days, I think we should do everything we can to make him comfortable and welcome. We still have the problem of retrieving the database. The computer on the station is not completely operational. Many of its components have been removed, Data says. Apparently, Lieutenant Riker used them to keep the station's radiation shield operational. Can it be repaired, at least enough to access the database? Without knowing what he did, that'll be tough. Perhaps he can help us. He was alone down there for a long time. I'm hesitant to let him go back until he's been evaluated. Troi says, "I'll talk to him." Picard says, "Thank you, Counselor." Now, remember, this Will Riker's been away for a really, really long time. And as we know from the past, that they had a relationship. And he's so happy to see her that he's kissing her all over the place. I thought I'd never see you again. We need to talk. You're on board because of him. No, Commander Riker and I are friends, close friends, but nothing more. Why don't we sit down? Do you remember the last time we saw each other? Like yesterday, the Janaran Fields on Beta Z. It was the day before you started your tour on the Potemkin, and we were going to meet on Riser 6 weeks later. We never did. I know. No, what I mean is Commander Riker and I never did. You see, he earned a promotion very quickly. I know that too for exceptional valor during the evacuation of the research station on Novella 4. I looked at his service record. He chose to make his career a priority. There wasn't much time for anything else. We kept in touch, but we didn't see each other again until we were both posted to the Enterprise 2 years later. By then, our feelings for each other had changed. We served together for 6 years. Things never went back to the way they used to be. I've had a lot of time on my hands when I was down on that station. There were days I felt so alone I thought I'd lose my mind. Do you know how I made it through? I thought if I hung on for one more day, they'd rescue me and I'd see you again. Oh, good grief. I know this isn't what you were hoping for, but that doesn't mean you can't make a future for yourself. Thanks. Uh, Picard wanted me to find you if you'd be willing to help us retrieve the station's database. I reconfigured that computer so many times they probably can't make heads or tails of it. I'd be happy to help. Do you feel up to it? Absolutely. I'll tell the captain. Well, I have to go. Tiana, I know it's been a long time since we've seen each other, and I know your feelings have changed, but mine haven't. I just can't give it up. I'd like to be with you again. Good night, Will. And she leaves. So he's a little late in getting to the transporter room to go back down. So they're all looking at him critically. So then they beam down, and Lieutenant is saying that he's reconfigured everything down there, and they go through all the stuff. Riker and Riker talk to each other the whole time, trying to do the computer stuff. So they do all their stuff. Riker and Riker have a heart-to-heart conversation. And then when the window starts to close again, they all beam up. They still need some more information. And the Lieutenant Riker asked to stay down to do more work. And they said they will come back to him in 3 days when the window opens up again. I don't know why he'd volunteer to stay down there when, I don't know, maybe he's trying to be a hero. After his heart to heart with Riker having a heart to heart with Riker. So then Diana gets a note, unsigned, meet me in the transporter room. Then she gets a second note and a flower. And he gives her more flowers and more chocolates. So he made it a couple of years ago down on the station while thinking of her. You made this? You should have seen the first two. It took a while to get a fine beam out of the phaser. It's lovely, thank you. Can you stay and talk? I want to remember our last night together. So how does it feel being with people again? Great, strange. For a long time I did whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. It's been hard taking orders again. I can imagine. But I guess I'll have to get used to it if I want to get my career going again. Is that what you've decided to do? Remember, I'm the one who wanted to make captain by the time I was 35. I'm a little behind schedule, I'll admit that. It's good you don't feel set back. I do. There are things more complicated than I had planned, but there's nothing that's going to stand in my way of getting what I want. And they have a little more romantic talk. So then Picard and Riker talk. Lieutenant Riker has been to see me to talk about the away mission. He believes the only way to retrieve the database is by directly accessing the main core underneath the station. The seismic activity makes those caverns very unstable. In my opinion, it's too risky. He said that he was down there recently. He seemed confident that it could be done safely. There's a good chance we will be able to retrieve the database from one of the consoles inside the station. But if it doesn't work, we won't have another chance for 8 years. Lieutenant Riker's plan is more dangerous, but it does have a better chance of succeeding. Given the importance of the data, I think it's worth the risk. I'll look over the schematics and I'll draw up a mission plan. I'm sure that Lieutenant Riker will be happy to help you with that. I'll talk to him, he says. Now, he's had this conversation with other people. He had this conversation, that Bajoran lady. He had it with her. But he says, I just met with the captain about your mission recommendation. I would appreciate it if next time you came to me first. I tried talking to you first on the station. You wouldn't hear me out. I heard you, Lieutenant. I rejected your plan. May I ask what the captain decided? The captain has decided to go with your recommendation, but that's not the point, isn't it? If you think I'm coming down on you because the captain overruled me, think again. I happen to disagree with his decision, but he is my commanding officer and I follow his orders. Just so there's no confusion, I'm your commanding officer and I expect you to do the same. If you can't, there's no place for you on my away team. Yes, sir. There will be a meeting in the observation lounge at 1400 hours to draw up a mission plan. So then Beverly and Troi talk about her feelings for Lieutenant Riker. And Beverly, they have a little girl talk going here. Just saying. So then the other Will Riker comes in and talks with her and does other stuff with her. And I like how they're playing the Lieutenant Riker a little shabbily than Commander Riker. Commander Riker's all like fit and this, and he's a little shabbily. That's the difference that's how you can tell which character he's playing by his appearance. He's a little shabbily. Just a word. So then Troi talks to Will. If you want to be with him, you don't have to ask permission. It's the look in your eyes. I recognize it. You used to have it for me. We both had relationship with other people. This is different. I don't know how you'd feel about it. Flattered, sort of. This must be very strange for you. Ever since you came on board, I find myself thinking about the choice you and I made. Me too. Do me a favor. Be careful. Will, I know you, and he have some problems. That's not what I'm talking about. If he had gotten off the planet instead of me, don't you think he would have made the same choices I made? I just don't want you to be hurt again. So then they sit down to a friendly game of poker. The three lieutenants and Commander Riker. And they have some interesting conversations. So then our Lieutenant Riker comes to talk to Troi and tells him that Captain Picard has made some inquiries and he managed to get him a posting on the Gandhi. And considering how long I've been out of commission, it's an amazing opportunity. When would you leave? In about a week. I see. Deanna, after I served 6 months, I'm eligible to bring family aboard if we got married. You said those exact words to me before you went to serve on the Potemkin. I know, but I just held up for a while. But if you hadn't been, what would have happened between us? I wouldn't have made the mistake of leaving you. I know that much. I don't know if we can believe that. It took me a long time to get over what happened between Commander Riker and me. I don't know what I want to put myself in that position again. I would never hurt you, Deanna. It's not that. It worked hard to make a life for myself on the Enterprise. I'm happy here. If the situation were different, I'd stay, but I can't. Not while he's aboard. Are you saying it's over? No. I just don't know if I'm ready to give up my life here. Maybe we both need some time. Breakup speech. So then they're back on the station doing repairs, and Data has a conversation with Worf. Lieutenant, I'm curious about something. If you met a double of yourself, would you have difficulty interacting with him? I think so. Why? I'm not easy to get along with, but Commander Riker and Lieutenant Riker are. Yet they seem to have trouble getting along with each other. I have found that humans value their uniqueness with the sense that they are different from everyone else. The existence of a double would preclude that feeling. Could that be the source of the friction? Or perhaps it's more a matter of seeing something in your double, something you don't like in yourself. Could be. So then they're doing repairs down on the station and they run into a little trouble. Um, this is it. This is the core over here. You're waiting for something in your order, sir. How would you like me to get over there, sir? You've been down here a dozen times. I'm sure you know the best way. Yes, I do, sir. It's leaking eon radiation. Why didn't you report this before? It wasn't here before. This must have happened recently. If we have to repair this conduit, we don't have time to access the computer core. Scan it now. It's working. The radiation levels are dropping to normal. Next time, don't give up so easily. They have a little conference, small minor thing go on, and they head back up. Data and Worf transfer the data. We get an overview from the captain. Captain's log, stardate 46920.1. We retrieve the database from the Vela station and are headed for a rendezvous with the Gandhi. Now it's our goodbye chat. I hear the Gandhi's going on a terraforming mission to Lagana sector. That's right. It'll take us 4 months just to get there. I won't be joining you. I guess I'm not surprised to hear that. I'm just not ready to give up my life here. And then... So then Riker gives him one of his trumpets to take with him. And they have a little heart-to-heart, a little goodbye, and that's about it. That's how the episode ends. So let's just nitpick it just a second. There's very little to nitpick. But I just thought we'd go through this just real quickly. Great moments. This episode has several nice effects combining two versions of Riker. The creators have gotten quite good with these doppelganger shows. There are only so many ideas in the world. Early on, while researching this book, I kept a list of potential plot lines. I suppose every writer who's a fan of Star Trek dreams of writing an episode someday. I had also come up with the idea of Transporter accidentally creating a duplicate of Riker. I thought it would make an interesting episode given Riker's violent reaction to being cloned and up the long ladder. Presumably, the distortion field on the Vela 4 is so bad that the shuttlecraft could not safely fly through it and land on the surface. That's why the away team must wait for openings in the field to retrieve the data from the research station. Bear in mind that even with the more advanced transporters of the Enterprise, the away team has only 3 opportunities. The first 2 last for 26 and 36 minutes respectively. This episode all makes it clear that these openings in the distortion field only occur every 8 years, and that the Potemkin's transporter had even more difficulty with the field. So how did the research station get down there in the first place? Evidently no shuttles could carry supplies. A small side point concerning the previous plot oversight. I suppose Starfleet could beam down a large replicator that could manufacture all the building supplies on the surface. Data's days showed us that the gift shops on Enterprise simply contain graphic representations of the items offered. Once an individual makes a selection, a replicator can replicate the item. Can a starship do this on a much larger scale? Perhaps we should take this one step further. Could a combination of transporters and replicators manufacture a complete research station on a planet's surface in just a few seconds? It's amazing that the role that the genetics play in behavior. For instance, Lieutenant Riker has just happened to grow a beard during the same time as Commander Riker. Then again, maybe a beard was his standard attire and he just wanted to make a good impression on Picard, so he shaved it off and kept it off for the first year of service. Also, as soon as Lieutenant Riker gets one of the new uniforms, he adopts the clutching of the bottom of his shirt and pulling it down, a maneuver so common to Commander Riker. This episode raises many intriguing possibilities since it demonstrates the individuals can be duplicated with the transporter. See equipment oddities under Lonely Among Us. Continuity and protection problems. Lieutenant Riker doorbell doesn't seem to be working just before Troi enters his quarters for the first time. Riker's head snaps up like he hears it, but the sound isn't on the tape. When a metal bridge collapses under Riker, Commander Riker drags him up from the precipice. Then Lieutenant Riker slithers over Commander Riker, crawls on his hands and knees behind an abutment, stands up, and reaches out to pull Commander up to his feet. The only problem is that Lieutenant Riker's backside hasn't even made it completely behind the abutment before he stands up. And even after he's standing, you can see the stunt double's feet disappearing. To accomplish this, Riker would have to be able to stand up and turn around while the bottom half of his body continues to crawl forward on his knees. Given the amazing physical feat of flexibility, I suppose we should rechristen him William Thomas Gumby Riker. So that's the end of that. We'll have to go on to disc 7, the final disc of the season. And let's see. So I guess that's going to handle Timescape and Descent. And that's it. That'll be the last nitpickers. There's no nitpickers for 7. If anybody knows if one exists, please let me know. Please don't forget to check out If Then later this afternoon, and also Flashback Mondays, where I talk about all the books in Romantic Time Book Review. If you're looking for a new author, new series, a Regency contemporary romance, sci-fi, mystery, suspense, paranormal, erotica, harlequin, I'll talk about it all. So please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. Thank you.